Lampshade. We had no idea how far we were from the last sign of civilization. That was the first mistake. There were 5 of us, me, David, and my friends, Jonas, Felix, Lena, and Amara. Mid-20s, college friends who loved hiking and camping more than partying in Berlin clubs. We'd done a dozen trips before, some through the Black Forest, some through the Bavarian Alps. But this time, we wanted to do something different, go deeper, find the old trails that people had stopped using. Off the grid, Jonas said, wagging his eyebrows like it was a challenge. We picked a stretch of forest near the Thuringian border. Remote, quiet, barely anything online about it. It wasn't even on all trails or any of the popular hiking apps. That was part of the thrill. No cell service. No lights. No maps. It was supposed to be a 4-day backpacking trip, tent, food, cooking gear, the usual. We were ready for wolves or bears or maybe a twisted ankle. But we weren't ready for them. The first day went fine. We hiked through a rocky path lined with mossy stones and tall, tightly packed trees that stretched toward a pale gray sky. It was beautiful, almost too quiet. No birds. No rustling. Just our boots crunching against dry leaves and the occasional stupid joke from Jonas. By sundown, we set up our tents by a small stream and lit a fire. We roasted sausages on sticks and drank cheap beer we'd hauled in. We laughed, played cards, and talked about everything and nothing. Amara kept glancing into the dark, though. She was always the most cautious of us, always aware. "You guys feel like it's too quiet?" she asked, stirring the fire with a stick. "It's nature," Lena said, rolling her eyes. "No, it's unnatural," Amara whispered. None of us took her seriously. We should have. The next morning, we walked deeper into the forest, following a trail that barely looked like one. At one point, we had to push through undergrowth that clawed at our clothes and scraped our skin. But we were in high spirits. The forest was beautiful, misty, untouched. Magical. Then we saw it, smoke. A thin, curling line rising above the trees, just beyond a ridge. "Someone's out here," Felix said. "Maybe a hunter," I offered. "Or someone with schnapps," Jonas joked. Curious, we veered off the path. It took us nearly an hour of careful climbing, bushwhacking, and checking our compass to reach the source. And there it was. A cabin. It looked like it had been here forever. Old stone walls. A sagging roof. Smoke curling from the chimney. Next to it stood a massive wooden shed, dark and windowless, built like a barn. A rickety fence circled the property. A field of dying sunflowers sagged in the mud nearby. Then she came out. An old woman, hunched, wrapped in a knit shawl and apron, smiled at us as if she'd been expecting company. Her gray hair was pulled tight into a bun, her skin paper-thin but clean. Eyes like cold water. "Guten Tag, children," she said, voice smooth as honey. "Are you lost?" We hesitated. "No," Lena said quickly. "We're just hiking. Saw the smoke." "Well, you must come in," she said. "I just pulled roast from the oven. It's too much for 2 old folks." "2?" Felix asked. "My husband is inside," she replied. "He doesn't walk much these days." "But you're welcome." "I insist." We exchanged glances. That was our second mistake. We said yes. Inside, the cabin smelled like cinnamon, wood, and meat. It was warm and surprisingly clean. Worn rugs covered the floors. Framed photos hung crookedly on the walls. A wood stove crackled. The kitchen was bright with candles, and the table was already set. Something about the photo wall caught my eye. Dozens of black and white pictures framed in mismatched wood. At first glance, they looked like family portraits, until I noticed some of the people looked scared. Unnatural expressions. A few were visibly tied to chairs. One looked like it had been taken in a basement. Another, closer, had a faint stain, almost like dried blood, across the glass. "That's weird," I whispered. The old man sat near the fire in a worn recliner. Huge, almost shapeless underlayers of wool and flannel. He didn't say a word. Just stared at us with pale blue eyes that didn't blink enough. Dinner was served by the woman, slices of what she called roast beef, with thick gravy and roasted vegetables. It tasted incredible. Rich, smoky, melting in your mouth. Jonas said, "This is amazing." "Seriously, what kind of beef is this?" The woman smiled. "Old family recipe." Amara barely touched her food. After dinner, she offered us apple wine and a place to rest before heading back. We politely declined sleeping over, but we did take the drinks. The wine was bitter and strong. That's when I noticed the lampshade. It was hanging above the table, off-white, stained, rough. At first, I thought it had drawings or embroidery. But the closer I looked, the more I realized. Those were tattoos. Letters, symbols, faded numbers. Like skin, real skin. I nudged Felix and nodded toward the lamp. He squinted. His eyes widened. He looked at me, then at Jonas, who was mid-sip of his wine. We didn't say anything aloud. But we all started piecing it together at the same time. The beef. The photo wall. The smell. The shed. The tattoos. My stomach turned. Amara stood up suddenly. "Where's the bathroom?" "Just down the hall," the woman said, sweet as sugar. A few minutes passed. Amara came back pale. "The pipes," she whispered to me. I heard someone crying, in the pipes. "We should go," I said aloud, standing quickly. The woman was in the kitchen, humming now, wiping her hands with a towel. We all stood up. "Thank you so much," I said, forcing a smile. "We should get back before it gets dark." "Nonsense," the old woman said. "You'll get lost. The woods aren't safe after sunset." "We have flashlights," Jonas said, voice a little too loud. The woman stepped in front of the door. "Please," she said, "stay. We don't get visitors often." Something moved in the back room. Heavy steps, a creak. The man, that's when we bolted. We rushed out of the cabin, stumbling into the yard, slipping in the mud. I heard the woman screaming behind us, no longer soft and kind, but guttural, shrieking. A dog barked, loud, savage. We ran toward the trees, but the man came out of the shed. He was enormous. Thick-shouldered. His face was half covered by a butcher's mask, stained and cracked. He held something in his hand, something long and sharp. Jonas shouted and pushed Amara out of the way. The man swung. Jonas fell. We didn't wait. We ran. We didn't go far. Just far enough to loop around the trees and double back to the shed. We had no plan. Just fear and adrenaline. The door was slightly open. We slipped in. It was dark, but we had our phones. The light cut through the black, revealing tools, saws, hooks. And the smell. It hit us like a wall. Rot. Blood. Decay. Lena gagged. Felix stumbled back. I pointed my light toward the corner. That's where we saw it. A body. Naked. Hanging by its arms. Skin peeled from its back. A face frozen in terror. Its thighs. Cut. The same shape and size as the roast beef. Lena screamed and clamped her hands over her mouth. We had eaten him. We heard footsteps. Heavy, slow. The creak of the door. They were looking for us. We hid behind crates, barely breathing. I saw a hatch, Amara whispered. We found it, half buried beneath hay and a broken board. We pried it open and slipped down into darkness. A cellar. Dirt floor, shelves lined with jars, pickled things. We crawled behind barrels and waited. Above us, we heard them talking. She saw the lamp, the woman said. I told you, the man growled. We should have butchered all of them. They'll run. We'll find them. They don't leave the woods. In the corner of the cellar was a freezer. Amara opened it slowly, light flickering. Inside, chunks of frozen meat, arms, a foot still wearing a hiking boot, a wedding ring on a dismembered hand. That night was hell. We stayed underground until we were sure they were gone. Then we crept out, huddled, decided to make a run for it, back the way we came. Only 3 of us now, me, Felix, Amara. Lena had broken down, sobbing, muttering about Jonas. We moved fast, quiet, hearts pounding. They were hunting us. We saw the traps, wires strung between trees, pits covered in leaves, even bones nailed to trees like warnings. Amara led us with terrifying focus, whispering directions, remembering every turn. By morning, we reached the stream. Then, a sound, an engine. A pickup truck. They had followed us. We ran for hours. Felix twisted his ankle. I had to half carry him. We took turns holding him up. Amara found an old ranger tower. Half collapsed, but tall enough. We climbed. The truck passed below and stopped. The man got out, looked around, then left. We waited until night. Then we ran. The 3rd morning, we found a road, real asphalt. An hour later, we flagged down a car. Police came, took our statements, then took us to the hospital. But they never found the cabin. Or the shed, or Jonas. They said we were half hallucinating, starved, lost. But we know what we saw. We tasted what we saw. It's been a year. Felix won't talk about it. Lena's in therapy. Amara moved to Berlin and doesn't go near trees anymore. Me? I still hike. But every time I see smoke in the woods, I turn and run the other way.